I'm happy because the topic which we are discussing, new technology, particularly the fintech, is a topic of relevance not only for India, even for the global action plan. Time is limited, so in 15 minutes, I'll try to raise the discussion, which I'm sure will be picked up, the type of persons I see before me, and talk on three basic elements. First thing is financial technology as a global agenda for crafting institutions. Now, these things are often told, institution building, but when we actually see the reality, we find that there's a big gap, and in certain situations, even abroad, there are disastrous consequences. Now, the problem which I see with regard to fintech is that it has tremendous advantages. There's no need to discuss that here. Each component of the technology, each set of innovations, each model which comes in the market has tremendous potential. Problem is that there are three inhibiting factors into it. Of course, India hasn't done much. I'll be taking up Indian initiative. But even abroad, what is happening and what has been happening definitely is not very significant. Now, let us come to the fact. You know, in Buenos Aires, there was a meeting of G20 countries, and in which fintech was taken up as a big agenda item. After that, there have been series of discussions, particularly in the European Union, on it. Countries of East Asia, particularly Singapore, had already done a lot. And we are awaiting for the G20 summit to come up again, when the cumulative outcome of these international discussions will come for a review. India, as you know, is busy in elections, particularly the policy makers are busy in elections or awaiting the new government. But when G20 comes up and India shall have to go there, then if we go unprepared, there would be definitely a problem. So first message I want to transmit through my speeches that there is a sense of urgency for India, otherwise we'll lock and lag behind. Now, facts. After all, what is being discussed? What are the areas in which we have to concentrate? What are our strengths and what are our weaknesses? And how we should go about it? The first thing I have to say is this, that there's a lot of material on fintech aspects. The number 11 sort of parameters are well known. We all have been listed here, on which discussions are going on. When you open the details, you will find that most of the innovations approaches, solutions form a part of the internal strategy of the companies and firms. So if there's a company which has done something significant, it will go only up to the level of vendor-driven level. They will tell that my product is the best. They will expose a little, but not reveal much for obvious business reasons. Problem of the government all along is, particularly we saw in cases of cryptocurrencies, that some countries have gone in their own way. And when I say of country, I'm also talking about the central banks. And then there are international authorities, like authorities concerned like FATF, which deals with money laundering and terror finance. There also, there are concerns. And when you go to economists, the most eminent among them, Stiglitz, says that such efforts should be banned. Now, the problem with the enterprising community and the citizen is this. You know that there are potentialities, but also these potentialities have been covered by stigma. But when we come to solution, and which is the latter part of my speech today, there are three areas in which things have really happened, and India has to form its own view. Some of you may be knowing that FATF authorities internationally are going to come up with their draft regulation on blockchain technology in this month of June. Before that, a lot of discourse ethics has taken place, meaning thereby there have been conferences, and conferences had outcomes, and ultimately a view has been taken. The sum and substance of the whole thing is what is not ethical shall not be tolerated. And I say this on the basis of the last meeting, which was held in Brussels this year, February, in which more or less a draft from next G20 has been on new technology, fintech, has been finalized, and it is fairly stringent as far as fintechs are concerned. Reserve Bank of India in India has taken two steps. One is the old one now, 2017. They had a meeting of all the regulators, market regulators, insurance regulator, they themselves, and several others, and some competent firms who prepared a report. It's a 93-page report, and the crux of the report is at page 72, which tells what they did. They identified 60 items, vertical one. Then they said, our policy of India, particularly regulators, with regard to these aspects, shall be following. So one column, the first column, against these parameters, is the most innocuous, comfortable one, where they have said we'll have light regulation into it. They have not said we will not regulate or supervise, but it will be very light, and those aspects have been listed. Then they have said there will be these items where we will be tough, stringent, and supervision will be very close. And the third, of course, are those aspects which deserve, in their opinion, deserve to be prohibited. My problems are two. Not that they have said the wrong thing, it's an excellent report. Since 2017, what has really happened to implement the intentions which you have laid down? The report is good. Page 72 is the excellent. I mean, compare it with any international document, it shines. But there has been lethargy in between, and unless we decide, we need a decisive government which decides after, that's most important, after discourse. This discourse which we find in the countries of European Union, the level there and the level here is different. 60 regulators of European Union countries, some independent authorities also, they sat together and they prepared a similar report in which they have given the structure of regulation which they shall have. Their approach is a bit different. One approach was ABC, stringent. Their approach is that wherever there is a regulating authority, and mostly it is there, they will have a body of experts as advisory committee members, in which persons like you shall have the say. Second problem is that they have even finalized the draft recommendation they will give on fintech regulation to the international forum. Now, what will India do there then, if you are not prepared? There was a seminar with Niti Aayog, some of you know, but it was basically speeches. Short point, therefore, is that if India has to develop, it has to be a development with personality. Regard to law, which is my last point. Whenever there is a problem, we say law. Who will deny that there shouldn't be a rule of law? But those who know the IBC story, insolvency and bankruptcy code history, 28 years rules were not notified in India. That gives a lot of message. Then, when the rules were notified and the regime really came up, see the newspapers every day, it doesn't require my telling these things, how the tribunal justice all over, it is not this appellate authority or that appellate authority, but the tribunal justice, the speed of it, the sensitivity of this, and the decisiveness of which, the quality of judgment delivery is an issue in India. So rules are needed, but the rules have to be fast, discursive, and this hatred against xenophobia has to go. Last point. This technological revolution which we are discussing is quite different. It is a turbulent river. It's like Kosi River earlier, on which you have to put a dam. If you miss time, you miss opportunity, and therefore there's a need of opportunity maximization. I came here, I was invited in two other by a forum like this. I chose this because I know that this program by this organization is systematic. It is conceptualized by a PhD in technology, and persons who come speak freely, and the end result is very good. Now, about keynote, what comes to my mind is this. In Bible, there's a very short parable, the shortest, which is the parable of the sower. It says, means Jesus said there, I threw seeds. Some fell on rock, some on sand, and some on fertile land. I know in this conference also, some will take it as usual, some will be egoistic saying what is new. And in some cases, it will be my presentation, rest deluge, but ultimately there will be others who may think cumulative. The problem of India has been that interdisciplinary, interdepartmental, and emancipation-oriented discussions are lacking. But this program also has an advantage. They record whatever you say. And ultimately it is on internet. And then I have been seeing that there's a very good response. Thank you.